The acrid stench of scorched metal and plasma discharge hung thick in the air, mingling with the faint scent of burning synthetics. Logan Magner pressed his back to a half-collapsed wall, his stealth suit's adaptive camouflage flickering erratically, damaged from too many near-death encounters. The once prosperous colony of New Haven lay in ruins around him, reduced to rubble and craters by the Kraken's merciless assault. Fires danced in the distance, flickering like angry spirits beneath a blood-red sky. Static hissed through his cum as he whispered, "Status report." Nothing. No response. The neural dampeners the enemy had deployed had effectively cut all long-range communications. He was alone. Deep behind enemy lines. Again, he thumbed the plasma rifle's status. 23% charge remaining. Not enough for a prolonged fight, but just enough for a last stand. His eyes flicked upward as heavy tremors shook the ground, loose dust and ash raining from the cracked ceilings. Massive shadows loomed through the smoke 12-foot-tall Kraken war machines. Elegant in design, monstrous in purpose. Extinction-level weapons that had torn through Earth's defenses in mere days. He pulled 2 plasma grenades from his belt, lips pressed in a tight line, steady hands, steady breath, steady nerves. He waited. Crouched low, then flung both grenades in perfect synchrony, one to the lead walker's legs, the other to its sensor array. The blast cracked the sky in half, sending a spray of molten metal and shrieking alarms into the chaos. Logan sprinted through the resulting cloud, ducking under the glowing wreckage as another Kraken unit thundered past, its targeting system sweeping for heat signatures. He rolled under its legs, plasma rounds peppering its undercarriage. It groaned in protest, but stayed upright. Then the wall behind him exploded. A 4th walker burst through, unseen, undetected, its arm a blur of industrial murder. Logan turned. Just in time to see the blow coming, but not fast enough to avoid it. Pain bloomed white behind his eyes, and the world tilted violently. He hit the ground hard, suit alarms blaring in his ears before everything faded into blackness. And then warmth. Not fire. Not pain. Warmth. His senses stirred slowly, reluctantly. Pulled from the void by something soft and yielding, his face was pressed against something smooth and curiously comforting. There was the rhythmic rise and fall of breathing of someone breathing around him. A heartbeat pounded nearby, steady and deep, not his own. The scent surrounding him was utterly alien sweet, wild, like storm-soaked blossoms in ozone. He tried to lift his head but found his cheek still resting against something that cradled him too perfectly to be metal or armor. Slowly, his eyes adjusted. Skin, violet, luminous. His military-trained instincts screamed recognition Valkyrian. A neutral party. A threat or so he'd been taught, but the arms wrapped around him told a different story. Strong, protective, tender. He stirred and let out a hoarse, bewildered breath. "What the hell?" A soft voice answered from above, low and melodic. "You are safe now, little warrior." The last thing he saw before the exhaustion claimed him again was a pair of glowing, star-bright eyes looking down at him not with calculation, but with something dangerously close to affection. The second time Logan awoke, it was not to the chaotic pulse of battle but to silence warm, fragrant and unsettlingly soft silence. He blinked slowly, his senses adjusting to the dim, amber light that filtered through what looked like crystalline windows. The walls of the room shimmered faintly, their translucent surfaces etched with swirling bioluminescent patterns that pulsed in slow, rhythmic waves. Wherever he was, it wasn't a medical bay. It wasn't a bunker. It wasn't human. His body ached with the phantom memory of blunt trauma, but his wounds had been cleaned and dressed with unfamiliar salves. His pulse quickened as he realized he wasn't lying on a standard-issue cot or medbed. It felt like a nest, cushioned with something that breathed faint warmth into his spine. The air smelled of wild nectar and ozone, alien but not unpleasant, and then he saw her. 9 feet tall, broad-shouldered, graceful, terrifying. The Valkyrian stood at a nearby table, her massive frame wrapped in a silken garment that clung to her muscled form like liquid shadow. Her skin, smooth and violet-hued, glowed softly in the ambient light. Long hair, almost the color of a thunderstorm at dusk, flowed down her back like a warrior's banner. She moved with calm, deliberate grace, sorting through crystalline vials and herbs that glimmered with faint inner fire. Logan tried to sit up. Pain flared in his ribs. He groaned, catching her attention. She turned, and those star-bright eyes met his piercing, intelligent and oddly gentle. "You're awake," she said, her voice like molten steel wrapped in velvet. "I was beginning to wonder if all humans slept this long after being tossed through a building." Logan struggled upright, bracing himself on the edge of the nest. "Where am I?" "In my home," she replied simply, walking toward him. "Safe, for now." He scanned the room again. Everything was alien, elegant, organic. The architecture curled like living coral, grown rather than built. His tactical instincts bristled. "You're Valkyrian," he said, narrowing his gaze. "You're supposed to be neutral." Her lips twitched into something between a smirk and a frown. "I am, or was." She crouched beside him, a mountain of muscle and elegance. Logan tensed as her hand reached toward him, but she merely brushed her fingers against his temple, checking his bandage. Her touch was feather-light, impossibly precise for someone of her size. "I found you dying," she said quietly. "No signal, no reinforcements. 4 Kraken units closing in. You'd have lasted 20 more seconds. I chose not to let you die. Neutrality be damned." Logan stared at her. "Why?" She paused, her fingers drifting from his skin. "Because something in me would not permit it. You were fighting with every ounce of strength, even when it was hopeless. I've seen warriors die screaming. You were silent, resolute. You reminded me of us before we forgot what it meant to care." He didn't know how to respond to that. "Who are you?" he asked instead. "I am Nara, daughter of House Valtari, First Lance of the Twilight Guard." "Logan Magner," he said, unsure why he gave his full name. "Captain, Earth Defense Forces." She rose to her full height, towering above him. "You're smaller than I expected." Logan bristled. "I'm not that small. You fit comfortably." "In my arms," she said matter-of-factly, then turned back to her vials. "So yes, you are." Heat crept up his neck. He wasn't sure if it was embarrassment or something else. He swung his legs over the edge of the bed. "Thank you for the medical attention, but I have to return to my command. They need to know what happened." Nara turned, her expression unreadable. "There is no command left on this world. Your colony has been evacuated. Only debris remains." A sharp ache flared in his chest, not from injury, but from loss. He had failed. "Again, I need to report," he said, standing on shaky legs. "I need to—" His knees buckled. He didn't fall because she caught him. One powerful arm slipped around his waist, pulling him upright. The other cradled his back, steady and sure. For a moment, he was enveloped again by her warmth, by that disorienting scent of wild nectar and ozone. "You're not ready," she said gently. "I don't have a choice." "You do now," she said, her voice low, dangerous. "Because I made one. I chose to save you. That means I protect you. Until you're whole." He looked up at her, his face inches from hers. She was impossibly close. Her eyes burned like distant suns, and for a moment, all the noise in his mind quieted. "I don't need protection," he whispered. She smiled. Not mockingly, not pityingly, but with something deeper, sadder. Everyone does eventually. Before he could protest, there was a sharp chime at the door, high, melodic, and urgent. Nara's head snapped up. Her entire posture shifted from caregiver to warrior in an instant. Her fingers curled tighter around Logan, possessive and alert. "Stay here," she ordered, easing him back into the nest. She turned, her body crackling with tension, and stalked to the door. Logan's vision swam slightly, but he reached for the plasma sidearm holstered beside the bed. It was still there, charged, ready. She'd left it. A sign of trust? Or a test? The crystalline door opened, revealing another Valkyrian, taller, broader-shouldered skin the color of frozen amethyst. The newcomer's gaze locked on Logan immediately, cold and assessing. "You brought one home," the other Valkyrian said. Her voice sharp. "You know what this means." Nara's voice was steel. "He's mine." Suspense twisted the air like a wire drawn taut. Logan's heart pounded, not from fear, but something else. The kind of quiet dread that came not from being hunted, but from realizing he'd just become the prize. The firelight in Nara's crystalline hearth cast rippling shadows across the curved walls of the chamber as the door sealed behind the intruding Valkyrian. The temperature in the room seemed to drop as the towering figure stepped forward, her boots striking the floor with weight and purpose. Her armor shimmered with a dull violet sheen, etched with the sigils of a warrior elite battle honors, carved into each plate like silent warnings. Logan instinctively reached for the sidearm. At his hip again, but stopped short. He was still too weak to stand without swaying. And judging by the way this new Valkyrian moved, graceful and lethal as a blade, drawn in silence, he'd be dead before he even raised the weapon. The warrior's cold eyes studied him, but her words were directed at Nara. "You've brought a human into your sanctum. A wounded one. A claimed one." Nara's reply came low, steady, and absolute. "He is mine." A pause. Then a slow tilt of the head. "That's not what the council says." "I don't care what they say." "You should," the stranger replied, stepping forward until her armored bulk nearly filled the room. "Because they've summoned you and him for judgment." Logan's brow furrowed. "Judgment?" The warrior's gaze cut to him, and for the briefest moment, Logan swore he saw a flicker of curiosity behind the ice. "You were found on a battlefield," she said. "Dying, alone, 4 Kraken war machines encircling your position. And yet you survived." "I had help," Logan said, nodding toward Nara. "Help that broke centuries of neutrality," the warrior replied, her voice sharpened to a point. "You're the spark of a political firestorm. The council will want to know why." "They'll know," Nara said, her voice suddenly colder than the other woman's. "Because I'll tell them myself." The warrior finally introduced herself. "I am Mira, First Blade of the Valkyrian Iron Guard, and I challenge your claim, Nara." Logan blinked. "Challenge?" Nara stepped between them. "You have no right." "I do," Mira interrupted, her tone razor thin. "By blood law, by combat right. You've made a claim on a foreign warrior. That claim must be tested." Logan's stomach twisted. "You're going to fight over me?" Mira's eyes didn't waver. "You are a resource. A powerful one. Your actions, your bond with her, it resonates. Literally, the healers recorded energy pulses from this dwelling that reached the temple spires. No human has ever done that." "That wasn't my doing," Logan said, jaw clenched. "It was. The resonance field. We sensed." "I don't know how." "Then you are either ignorant or dangerous," Mira said. "Either way, you must be assessed." "No," Nara snapped. "He will not be paraded for your council's curiosity. He's recovering." Logan touched her arm. "It's fine." "It is not," she hissed, but her voice softened when he looked up at her. "I'm not yours to hide," he said, though part of him wished he could disappear back into that soft nest and let her arms keep the rest of the galaxy at bay. "If there's a council, if there's a problem, let's face it." She stared at him for a moment longer, then nodded once. "Very well, but know this, Logan Magner. You are mine, not by law, but by choice. If they demand proof, I'll give them blood." He swallowed hard, unsure if that should terrify or thrill him. The Valkyrian Hall of Judgment was nothing like a human tribunal. It was carved from a living crystal formation deep beneath the mountain, glowing softly from within. Hundreds of towering figures stood along ascending terraces, their armor ornate and ancient, their expressions masked by ceremonial helms. In the center stood a circular arena ringed in bioluminescent runes pulsing like a heartbeat. Logan stood beside Nara in the center, feeling like a pocket knife standing next to a warship. The lead elder, her skin a deep indigo that shimmered like starlight on still water, addressed them from her throne of fused crystal and steel. "Warrior Nara, you broke the accord." "I saved a life," Nara replied, standing tall. "You claimed him. I protected him. You formed a resonance bond." "That was not my intention," she said, "but I do not regret it." The murmurs of the watching council stirred like wind through glass. "Then you accept the consequences?" "The elder?" asked. Nora's voice rang like a blade unsheathed. "Yes." Nara stepped forward, the echo of her boots matching the beat of Logan's heart. "I challenge your claim, per the right of proving. If he is to remain among us, I will test whether you are worthy to protect him." The elder turned her gaze to Logan. "Human, do you consent to this?" He opened his mouth, then hesitated. "I don't fully understand what's happening." "If Nara wins," Mira said, "you remain under her protection. If I win, you become mine." His pulse spiked. "I'm not a piece of territory." "You are a warrior," Mira said. "That makes you valuable. But protection is not sentiment here. It is earned." He looked at Nara. Her eyes were steady, confident, but beneath the surface, he felt the flicker of something through their faintly connected bond. Fear, not of losing, but of losing him. "I consent," Logan said, louder than he thought he could. "Because I trust her." The murmurs returned, now louder. The elder nodded. "The right will be held at dusk." The hours leading up to the duel were a blur. Warriors passed by to offer silent nods to Nara and cold stares to Logan. His presence was a violation, a curiosity, a threat. Inside her private chamber, she stood with her back to him, fastening her ceremonial armor piece by piece. She radiated strength, but he could feel the tension in her shoulders, the slight tremble in her breath. "You don't have to do this," he said. She turned to him, the light gleaming off her violet skin. "I do. For them, and for you." Stepped forward, placing a hand on her forearm. "Why?" Her expression softened. "Because I have lived a long time, Logan. I've buried comrades. I've walked off battlefields alone. I had convinced myself I needed no one. But then I found you bleeding, broken but unyielding." She leaned down, her forehead touching his. "And for the first time, I wanted to protect someone more than I wanted to fight." He said nothing, just wrapped his arms around her waist and held on, heart hammering, breath caught in his throat. At sunset, the arena would decide everything. The twin suns of Epsilon 9 dipped low behind the jagged mountains, casting the Valkyrian arena in blood orange light. Shadows stretched long across the crystalline battlefield, sharp and unforgiving, like the traditions about to be tested. Hundreds of warriors lined the amphitheater in tiered silence, their hulking forms draped in armor that hummed with ancestral resonance. These were not just soldiers. These were witnesses to history. Logan stood just beyond the dueling ring, his Heart pounding, a war drum beat against his ribs. His fingers curled against the rail of the observation alcove, white-knuckled. Despite the lingering pain from his injuries, his mind was a torrent of focus and dread. This wasn't a ceremony. It was combat. And it could end with Nara bloodied and beaten, or worse. Across from him, Nara stepped into the circle with the silent intensity of a supernova. Her ceremonial armor left her arms bare, muscles taut with purpose. Her movements were slow, controlled, almost reverent. She didn't look at the crowd. She didn't look at Mira. Her focus was laser-sharp, fixed only on the center of the ring, and perhaps on the thought of him. Mira entered from the opposite end, her form cloaked and heavier. Warplate, her staff gleaming like tempered moonlight. She spun the weapon once in her grip, the movement smooth and confident. The smirk she gave Nara wasn't cocky. It was anticipatory, like a predator eager to test her teeth. The elder rose from her high perch. Let the rite of proving begin. No weapons of death. No interference. Yield or fall. The moment the words left her lips, the entire arena went still. Mira struck first. Her staff came down like a meteor, slicing the air between them with a whistle. Nara sidestepped with impossible grace, catching the haft with her bare hand and redirecting the momentum. They separated, then clashed again. And again. It wasn't a brawl. It was a symphony of power strike and counter, rhythm and recoil. Every move they made sang through the crystal beneath their feet, sending pulses through the arena's resonance channels. Logan could feel each impact vibrating through the walls, through the rail, through his bones. But Nara, she moved like fluid wrapped in steel, every motion protective rather than punishing. Why do you coddle him? Mira snarled between strikes. He is a soldier, not a child. I protect what is mine, Nara growled back, sweeping low, her fist cracking against Mira's thigh. You mean to love him? Mira spat, twirling her staff and striking Nara's shoulder with a bone-rattling crack. You weaken yourself. No. Nara replied, ducking under a second blow and driving her elbow into Mira's side. I strengthen us both. The crowd's energy shifted. Logan could feel it, eyes that had once viewed him with suspicion now flickering with uncertainty. They were beginning to see it too. Mira surged forward in a flurry of strikes, driving Nara back toward the edge. For a moment, Logan's breath caught. Then Nara stepped into the assault, parrying the final blow with her bare forearm. Sparks flew. She caught the staff, twisted, and with a roar that shook the heavens, shattered the weapon in two. Mira staggered, breathless. Nara didn't strike again. She simply stepped forward, seized her opponent by the front of her armor, and forced her to the ground with unrelenting control. Her foot came down gently, firmly on Mira's chest. Yield, Nara said. Mira stared up at her, fury in her eyes. Then shame. Then respect. I yield, she gasped. The arena erupted, not in outrage, but in thunderous, unified applause. Crystalline walls vibrated with the power of 1,000 approving warriors. And through it all, Nara's gaze never left Logan's. She walked to him through the center of the arena like a queen crossing her throne room. Not a single ounce of blood on her. When she reached the observation alcove, she didn't speak. She didn't bow. She lifted Logan into her arms, not as a trophy, not as a possession, but as the most precious thing in the universe. The crowd went still again. It was tradition-shattering, culture-breaking, scandalous, and unstoppable. You're insane, Logan whispered against her collarbone as she held him. She smiled. Maybe, but I fought the fiercest warrior in my caste to keep you. That should count for something. He leaned his forehead against hers. It counts for everything. Then a sudden ripple of sound rose behind them. A crystalline chime, urgent, intercept transmission. A nearby sentinel activated a projection rune. A human officer's voice cut through the static, raw with urgency. "Captain Magner, this is Admiral. Hun, your life signature has reconnected with the fleet. Are you operational?" Logan froze. Nara's grip around him tightened, protective again. "Admiral Hun," Logan responded, voice steady. "I'm alive. Situation complex. Request secure channel." The Admiral didn't wait. New intelligence. Kraken fleet inbound. Full assault force. They're returning to finish what they started. Gasps erupted in the crowd. Mera, still. Kneeling in the arena, stood suddenly. "Did you say a full fleet?" "Yes," Logan confirmed, "and we only have days." Nara turned toward the Elder Council, her voice loud and clear. "You heard him. The Kraken are coming again. And neutrality," Mera said bitterly, "no longer protects us." The Elder stood. "Then we must act. We will convene at once." Nora's eyes flicked back to Logan. "You'll brief them." "I will ready our warriors." He nodded, pulse hammering, not from fear. From clarity. They weren't just a bond now. They were a command unit, and war had come home. The Valkyrian war hull pulsed with electric tension, every surface humming with low, crystalline resonance. Massive strategic displays bloomed across the chamber like holographic blooms, projected overlays of star systems, Kraken fleet movement, patterns, and predictive algorithms. They blinked and shifted like a living map of impending devastation. Logan stood at the heart of it, surrounded by towering Valkyrian generals, tacticians, and war priests, all cloaked in armor that shimmered like obsidian beneath the glow of the command glyphs. His Earth defense uniform had been patched and reinforced with Valkyrian tech. Though it still looked like a child's outfit among gods. At his back, Nara loomed like a living fortress. Her hand rested protectively on his shoulder, her eyes locked onto every projection with lethal calm. She hadn't spoken since they entered, but her presence screamed louder than any words. "Estimated time to fleet emergence?" Logan asked, his voice slicing through the chamber like steel through silk. "3 cycles," answered Mera, now fully integrated into the command structure, her previous challenge forgotten in the face of looming extinction. "But we believe. The Kraken have deployed cloaked advance unit scouts, saboteurs. They may already be within atmospheric range." Logan narrowed his eyes at the data feed. "They're adjusting tactics. Last time, they hit hard and loud. This time, they're hunting first, learning. And when they attack," Nara added, her voice a low rumble, "they will strike our weakest points. Our resonance arrays, our bond fields." That silenced the room. The Valkyrians had never needed allies before. Their culture was built on strength, honor, and sovereign tradition. But now, the only thing standing between their world and annihilation was something they had no historical doctrine for: connection. Logan exhaled slowly, then activated a side interface. It linked to his modified stealth suit, now fused with Valkyrian energy synapse nodes designed by Nara herself. Together, they'd configured a harmonized resonance field powerful enough to repel Kraken dampeners. But it wasn't just about tech. It was about them. "It's not enough to pair human tech with Valkyrian bioresonance," Logan said, addressing the gathered assembly. "We've confirmed that the resonance field only strengthens when there's a conscious emotional link between the pair. You can't fake it. You can't fabricate it. You have to bond." "You're suggesting we deploy warriors based on—" One of the counselors hesitated. "Affection?" "Not affection," Nara corrected, stepping forward. "Trust, intimacy, alignment." Mera stepped beside her. "I didn't believe it either, but I felt it. During the duel, when Nara was fighting not to win, but to protect him. It changed something. Our crystal systems recorded the flux. It wasn't power, it was unity." Another counselor scoffed. And what happens when the Kraken target those bonds? When they exploit those emotions? You're asking us to weaponize vulnerability. I'm telling you, Logan replied firmly. It's our only shot. A beat of silence. Then a ripple of unease passed through the war hall as a secondary alert flared. Unauthorized energy spike South Ridge Defense Outpost. Mira rushed to the display terminal. That's one of our early resonance relay stations. It was housing 4 human Valkyrian pairs for training. The hologram zoomed in, showing a flicker of burning sky, fractured signal feed, and then nothing. They've started, Logan muttered. They're testing our lines. Nara's voice was deadly calm. Then we test them back. The Elder. Council exchanged looks. Finally, the eldest among them stepped forward. Her indigo skin glowed with solemn clarity. Very well. We approve the formation of a joint resonance command. Effective immediately. Human and Valkyrian pairs only. One commander, chosen by merit and bond strength. All eyes turned to Nara and Logan. They didn't speak. They didn't need to. The resonance between them crackled to life, a visible halo. Of pale violet and human gold intertwining like the coils of twin suns orbiting one another. Commander Nara, the elder said, nodding. Captain Magner, the fate of our people may rest on you. That night, in the heart of Nara's quarters, transformed now into a tactical nerve center and sanctuary, Logan stood beneath the starlit dome of their private sky, his eyes locked on the swirling resonance monitor. It displayed their combined energy pattern, stable, balanced, and growing stronger with each pulse. We were made for this, Nara said, approaching from behind. She wrapped her arms around him, her massive form molding to his back. Not just to fight, to lead. I never wanted to lead, he said quietly. I just didn't want to die for nothing. Then lead them to something that means everything, she murmured, brushing her lips against the side of his neck. We fight because we care. And that makes us stronger than anything the Kraken have. He turned in her arms, looking up. At her not as a soldier to his general, but as a man to the warrior who had found him broken and made him whole again. I'm scared, he admitted. I'm not, she replied, drawing him closer. Because I have you. The air shimmered around them, their bond activating on instinct, the room filling with light and warmth and low, pulsing power. Their hearts beat in perfect unison. Thoughts brushed together across their psychic link, his fear, her strength, his longing, her devotion. Then the war chime struck. A third alert, no drills, no simulations. Kraken dreadnought inbound. Low orbit breach confirmed. Combat engagement in T-minus 20 minutes. Logan and Nara broke from their embrace in perfect synchronicity. He snapped his gauntlets into place. She locked the final seal on her armor. Their minds remained partially fused as they moved. As they stepped out into the war-lit dusk of Epsilon 9, every eye turned to them, not with skepticism, but with hope. Mira joined them on the command ridge, nodding in respect. The other pairs are ready. We've attuned them using your bond profile. It worked better than any training regimen we've ever used. And the dreadnought? Logan asked. Her face hardened. Bigger than we expected. They've modified it. Cloaked resonance shielding, plasma lattice weapons. They think we won't touch them. They're wrong, Nara growled. He reached out and took her hand, their palms crackling with raw, synchronized energy. Time to show them, he said. What happens when you underestimate a human? And his 9-foot alien bondmate. Nara finished, her smile deadly. The Valkyrian war horn sounded, echoing like thunder across the valley. The first real battle had come. And this time, humanity wasn't fighting alone. The sky above Epsilon 9 had fractured into fire. The Kraken, dreadnought and obsidian leviathan the size of a city, hovered like a storm cloud split by molten veins. Plasma tendrils rippled from its hull, lashing the atmosphere with destabilizing energy bursts. Entire mountain peaks disintegrated under its preliminary scans, and the ground trembled as smaller Kraken skirmish craft peeled away, darting down like metallic vultures to test the planetary defenses. But the Valkyrian response was already in motion, and at its center stood two beings no enemy could have predicted. Logan Magner adjusted the gauntlet on his left arm. The resonance crystal embedded in the core pulsing with his heartbeat. Nara stood beside him, encased in a form-fitting battle harness woven from living alloys and organic resonance plating, each piece attuned to her biofrequency and now to his. Their link wasn't just emotional anymore. It was tactical, neurological, elemental. All units in position. Mira's voice crackled over the command channel. Energy readings climbing, Kraken weapons charging. Dreadnought is preparing to fire on Central Command. Logan looked up at the massive ship casting its shadow across the capital. They're not testing us anymore. They're here to break. U.S. They'll have to get through me first, Nara said, stepping forward, her voice carrying the weight of legend. The two of them stood on the resonant spire, a natural crystal tower fused with Earth and Valkyrian tech, to become the nerve center of their defense grid. It shimmered with threads of light from hundreds of human Valkyrian pairs stationed across the planet, their sensed resonance fields forming a massive interlaced network. Together they created something the Kraken had never anticipated, a living planetary shield powered not by energy cores, but by connection. Logan closed his eyes. Ready? Nara extended her hand. Always. Their palms met. The world lit up. Their resonance field erupted like a supernova. Tendrils of light streaking through the sky in a golden-violet flare, connecting to each sensed pair across the network. As they attuned, Logan felt it again. The psychic bridge between their minds opening fully. Not just emotions this time, but thoughts, instincts, reflexes. He felt her pride in him, her unwavering certainty, her protective love, fierce and unrelenting. She felt his grief, his determination, his fragile hope wrapped tightly around her. Together, they became a signal unlike any other. The Kraken dreadnought locked onto the spire. Mira's voice screamed through the link. Magner! They've targeted you. Pull back. No, Logan replied. This is where we make them see. The Kraken fired. A pulse beam erupted from the dreadnought's central cannon wide enough to vaporize a city, layered with resonance disruptors, designed specifically to break the very bonds that powered the shield grid. Logan and Nara didn't move. They braced. They sensed. Their resonance field condensed to a spear point, their energy signatures folding inward and spinning into a lattice. When the beam struck, it didn't consume them. It bent. The pulse shattered against their field, the energy spiraling around them, refracting into the sky like a celestial kaleidoscope. Logan gritted his teeth, every muscle in his body screaming from the strain of synchronization. Nara's arms closed around him like armor, her mind pressing into his to support the unbearable weight. He screamed into their link, "Now, Nara!" She roared. Their field exploded outward in a resonant shockwave, reversing the flow of energy back toward the dreadnought. The pulse feedback tore through the ship's shields, melting through its outer hull and igniting secondary explosions along its plasma banks. Stunned silence followed. Then Mira's voice. The dreadnought's shields are down. Repeat, shields down. We have an opening. Every pair, follow our lead, Logan said, gasping, clinging to Nara's shoulder. It only works if you let yourselves feel. Don't think like machines. Think like them. Fight like them. The synchronized assault began. All across Epsilon 9, human Valkyrian pairs activated their bonds, their fields flickering like stars waking across a dark sky. Where one moved, the other anticipated. Where one struck, the other defended. No command chains, no lag. No hesitation. It was war as art, war as love, and the Kraken never stood a chance. Hours later, smoke curled in slow ribbons over the broken fields. Wrecked Kraken craft littered the landscape like bones of extinct titans. The dreadnought, cracked open like a dead god's heart, lay smoking in low orbit, slowly breaking apart under its own failing gravity generators. Logan sat at the edge of the spire platform, helmet off, sweat drying on his skin. Nara stood behind him, her armor charred, her face smudged with battle dust, her eyes brighter than ever. "We did it," he murmured. "No," she said, crouching down beside him and taking his face in her hands. "You did." "We did," he corrected. Their bond still pulsed faintly warm, steady, intimate. The War Council gathered around them, stunned into reverence. Even Mira looked different, humbled, changed. The elder stepped forward. "You've proven something we never dared believe. That strength can come from vulnerability. That resonance is not just energy. It is love made manifest." Then she raised her voice for all to hear. "Let the right of eternal claiming be recognized." A ripple passed through the crowd. Logan blinked. "Wait, what?" Nara leaned in, her smile slow and full of heat. "It's a sacred right, a soul bonding between warriors who fought as one. After what we just did, there can be no doubt." "But," he started. She kissed him. Everything else vanished. The spire, the wreckage, the pain, the politics. Just her and the truth in her touch. When she pulled away, her voice was soft but unbreakable. "You are mine, little warrior, not by rescue, not by combat, but by choice, by bond, forever." And across the planetary grid, a pulse of shared resonance spread through the remaining pairs. Hundreds of hearts, human and Valkyrian, beating in perfect harmony. One planet, one war, one future. The days that followed were unlike any in the history of Epsilon 9 or of Earth. In the aftermath of the battle, the skies turned quiet, not from silence, but from awe. Across the war-scarred valleys and shattered peaks, stories passed from lips to transmitters to archives, of how a dying soldier was saved not by a medevac, but by the arms of an enemy, of how their bond defied logic, culture, and centuries of isolation, of how the Kraken, invincible in every known engagement, were broken by something their calculations could never account for. Love. At the center of it all stood Logan Magner and Nara of House Valtari, now eternally bound by the right of claiming, recognized by both Earth and Valkyrian law as a sovereign pair, militarily, psychically, and spiritually united. But war was not yet done with them. Logan stood before the massive, circular display in the newly constructed Resonance Command Nexus, deep beneath the Valkyrian capital. Around him, dozens of pairs, human and Valkyrian alike, filed in. Warriors, engineers, tacticians. Each pair glowed faintly, the lingering echo of their harmonized fields giving the chamber a heartbeat of its own. The network they had built, through necessity, had evolved into a fully integrated resonance command. Lattice, battle-tested, planet-wide, unprecedented. The dreadnought was only a vanguard, Mira said from the side, her voice grim as she adjusted her gauntlet. Scouts. From Earth's outer colonies report a gathering fleet. A full Kraken warhive is coming. How long do we have? Logan asked. 6 days. 7 if we disrupt their jump pattern. The room tensed. Valkyrian jaws clenched. Human hands tightened on tablet edges. Then we use that time, Logan. Side stepping forward. We replicate what we've built here. Pair every combat-ready human with a compatible Valkyrian. Not just on Epsilon 9, on every world that'll listen. We build a lattice that spans systems. We make them listen. The room murmured. Some skeptical, others electrified. And when Earth Command protests? One Valkyrian asked, "Your Admiral Hun was restrained, to say the least." Logan smiled faintly. He's also pragmatic. He's seen the numbers. He'll fall in line. Or, Nara added, stepping into the circle, he'll face me. That silenced the room with a murmur of knowing chuckles. Logan looked to the council elders. We're not just defending Epsilon 9 anymore. This is the beginning of a new strategy. One not written in cold equations, but in connection. One that makes our enemies feel. Nara stepped beside him and placed a crystalline data disk on the table. We've begun training resonance-compatible pairs. The results are beyond expectations. Speed, targeting, reflexes, cohesion. It's not just combat, it's symphony. And when the hive arrives, Nara said, placing a hand on Logan's shoulder, they will find a galaxy united not by treaty, but by bond. That night, as dusk painted the spires of the Valkyrian capital in deep violet and indigo, Logan stood, with Nara on their private terrace. She stood behind him, her massive form cloaked in silk, arms wrapped around his chest, chin resting lightly on his head. "You're quiet," she murmured. "I'm thinking," he replied. "Dangerous habit." He smiled. "About how this all started. About that day I thought I'd die alone behind enemy lines." She tightened her embrace. "And instead, you found a place to live." He turned in her arms, looked up into her star-bright eyes. "More than that, I found you." Their bond, always simmering beneath the surface, surged again, a wave of warmth, memory, love. They didn't need to speak. Every thought passed between them like breath. Then a soft chime echoed through the terrace. A secure message. Valkyrian. Protocol Level 1. Logan tapped his gauntlet. Admiral Hun's face appeared in flickering blue light. Captain Magner. Valkyrian Commander Nara. The Council has reviewed the updated threat matrix. We are authorizing full-spectrum joint deployment. Logan straightened. Including use of resonance lattice weapons? Hun hesitated, then nodded. Your demonstration convinced even the old guard. You've turned sentiment into strategy. Whatever. This is between you two. It works. Just know the galaxy is watching. The transmission ended. Logan looked up at Nara. She looked down at him, brow arched. "Well?" she asked. He kissed her softly. Then let them watch. 6 days later, the edge of known space roared with fire. The Kraken Hive fleet emerged from subspace like a swarm of angry deities, hundreds of warcraft, Hive dreadnoughts and pulse harbingers, all pulsing with biomechanical dread. Their targeting systems locked onto every known resistance node. Their algorithms began compiling destruction paths, and then they heard it. A pulse. Not mechanical. Not code. Resonance. From 1,000 battlefields, 1,000 pairs lit up in perfect unison. Human hearts beating in rhythm with Valkyrian souls. Soldiers who no longer fought alone. Lovers who fused their fear into power. Friends who bled together and rose brighter. And at the center, Logan and Nara. Their field bloomed with unmatched energy, expanding into a spiral of intertwined gold and violet, a celestial shield laced with emotion and defiance. Kraken systems began to fail. Weapons, MISFIRED. Targeting arrays turned inward. The hive mind hesitated, for the first time in its cold, calculated existence. It faltered. Logan stood atop the flagship's bridge, his voice amplified through the lattice. You calculated every frequency, every tactic, every weakness. He reached for Nara's hand, but you never accounted for this. She stepped forward. Beside him, her voice a thunderclap of love made war. You never accounted for us. The final battle wasn't recorded in traditional data logs. It was felt. Through trembling hands clasped across control panels. Through cries of rage and ecstasy and grief. Through bonds made real by shared will. The Kraken fell. Not all at once, but in waves, each wave broken by resonance fields that would not yield. Their programming unraveled, their weapons silenced by harmonies their minds could not understand. When it was over, the stars were quiet again, not empty. But full of something new. Months later, peace was declared not by treaties, but by celebration. Spire, where Logan and Nara had first stood, was now the nexus of the United Defense. Grid. The first human Valkyrian child was born, their heartbeat already syncing with nearby resonance crystals. Songs were written. Statues were raised, but Logan needed none of that. He needed only her. They stood together one quiet morning, overlooking the world they helped save. You still think I'm crazy for pulling you off that battlefield? Nara asked. Logan smiled. No, I think it was the smartest irrational act in the galaxy. She leaned down, kissing his brow, and wrapped him in the arms that had first held him not as a soldier, but as something fragile and precious. And now? She whispered. Now I'm exactly where I belong. And when the stars watched that moment across systems, across empires, they understood something the Kraken never could, that the strongest warriors are the ones who choose to love.